What is up, everyone? It's been quite some time since I've actually done a review, so I figured, you know what, today is the day for a long overdue review of the Artisan Raiden, or the way it's meant to be pronounced, the Raiden. Now, I don't think Artisan as a brand needs too much introduction. They are a Japanese mousepad company that has been around for quite some time now, constantly innovating their mousepads and setting that standard for what a top performing, top quality mousepad should look like. It does feel like a lot of companies are starting to catch up, but it still feels like they're all chasing that artisan level quality. Now, initially, I was going to do these reviews starting from the artisan with the most control, which is a 0, to the artisan with the most speed, which is a Shirenkai. But since the Raiden is the first artisan pad that I ever bought, I figured I might as well just start there. Now, overall, I have used this mousepad for months, on and off. I just recently got back on it to do this review, both on the mid and the X-Soft, just so I can actually do like a fair comparison of the two. I mainly play Valorant, Overwatch 2, Counter-Strike, and the occasional League of Legends, and through countless hours of usage, it's still holding up really, really well. It is slightly dirty, it catches skin cells pretty easy, and they do look a lot more pronounced due to the color, but other than that, the surface is still in amazing condition. Now, speaking of the actual surface itself, Artisan likes to use polyester pretty much for all their pads, and the Raiden is no exception. It is a polyester surface with a pour-on base. Where the Raiden is different is how smooth it feels compared to the other Artisans. It's almost silky to the touch with a tight weave. Now, when your mouse is in motion, it doesn't provide a lot of feedback compared to other Artisans. It offers very little resistance due to low initial friction and dynamic friction. So most of your stopping power will come from your own mouse control. You're not going to be getting too much help from this mouse pad with stopping your mouse. Now, also keep in mind, my Raiden is the old one. The mid one, at least, is the old Raiden, and the X-Soft is the quote-unquote improved V2. The only reason I say improved in quotes is because in some aspects, yeah, the V2 is an improvement, but in one other big one, it's not in my eyes. They loosened the weave mainly because people were having issues with certain mice, especially the GPX spinning out. Artisan says the pad was never the issue and it was the sensor, but they still updated the pad just to accommodate for this problem. Now, the only reason I say there's one big reason it's not an improvement in my eyes is because by loosening the weave, the pad is slower. It's not a huge change, but it is a noticeable change. Now, the Raiden comes in two colors. It comes in a coffee brown, which, yeah, I know it looks black, but it's definitely coffee brown. It's much more pronounced in the light. And then now a dye orange, which Artisan's dye orange looks amazing. Now this speed. This honestly is probably the main selling point of the Raiden. It is a fast cloth mousepad, but it is Artisan's second fastest mousepad. The Shirenkai is the fastest, but it suffers from durability issues. Now, skates will alter the overall speed or the feel of the speed, mainly if you're using dots or if you're using full-size skates. I personally don't recommend using something like super glides on this mousepad, just because the issue that I come in with is even if the mouse is being held, there's still tiny little micros. So it almost feels like you're always kind of adjusting to super glide skates when it comes to this mousepad. So I personally can't recommend them. I don't like them. I don't know. Maybe you will though. I'm not sure. Now, as far as the stitching on these mousepads, Artisan has probably the best stitching on the market. There's companies that do amazing stitching and it's not really that big of an issue, but Artisan's stitching is still the highest quality in my opinion. For the mid, it sits leveled with the pad, and through months of usage, I still haven't had any fraying anywhere on the pad. And the X-Soft actually is below the surface of the pad. And same thing, no issues with any fraying whatsoever. It is perfect. Now, durability. Like I said earlier, I have been using this pad on and off for months. I have no actual slow spots anywhere, and I have never actually deep cleaned it. It's still holding up amazing. No issues whatsoever. No slow spots. It's perfect. I do clean the surface every once in a while with Lysol, but this only wipes off the surface dust. I still recommend deep cleaning every few months, especially if you notice slow spots. I haven't come across that issue, so I haven't had to deep clean it, but if you're noticing that issue, definitely deep clean your Raiden. Now, the X-Soft only has about 2 total weeks, so I can't really speak on the overall durability of it, but I can only assume it's going to be similar to the mid. Up until recently, Raiden has only come in 2 options, the mid and the X-Soft. But Luckily, Artisan now has released a Raiden Soft, so it opens up a lot more options for the consumer. If you want something between both these pads, now you have that option. Now, what are the main differences in the bases? Boiled down into the simplest form, Xsoft offers more control and Mid offers more speed. This is probably the best time for me to expand on this though. The surface overall is exactly the same on both Mid and Xsoft. I don't personally like this kind of speed test too much, but I'm using about the same force to move the mouse right here, and it's moving around the same, right? So when there's no pressure applied, the speed is identical. Xsoft will offer more control when you push down on your mouse pad. This is where I notice a lot of issues though. Something like even applying your wrist pressure on your wrist, or in a tense situation applying pressure, downward pressure to your mouse, will already alter the overall feel of the surface, especially on something like the Raiden or the Zero, which are much more plush than the other Artisans. For this reason, I don't like recommending Xsoft. I always recommend Mid, and like I've always pretty much said, I value consistency over everything else, so I want the absolute most consistent surface. So in my opinion, Mid just clears both Xsoft and Soft. The one con with the Mid base is it doesn't stick very well to some surfaces. So if you want something that sticks better and is still better than Xsoft, then I would recommend the Soft. I think it is a pretty good middle ground. But other than that, if what you want is consistency and it doesn't bother you, that it doesn't stick, or if it does stick to your surface, I will always recommend a Mid base Artisan pad. I could honestly keep going about this pad for quite some time, but I don't really want to drag on forever. I don't want to make this video too long, so I'll start wrapping it up now. Is the Raiden a good choice for you? If you like speed pads, I believe it is. It is honestly the best option in my opinion when it comes to speed, and honestly the closest thing to a glass pad in cloth form. And that's about it, honestly. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and catch you in the next one.